Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. So yeah, it's Meet Pie, and today it's just us. It's just us. But
Yes.
yeah, we'll see if there are anyone coming in and ask us question. Otherwise, I will just ask you question, and you can ask me questions. And yeah, it's very casual, episode today. And I
Yes,
think, yeah, it's like kind of a very, very busy week. And I think you just finished a meeting, right?
yes. So we're recording a podcast. So there's news on a podcast as well coming soon. But yeah, the week has been busy. But we get there. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. I
How
feel
how
like
are you?
I feel like now is like all the conference because there was the COVID pandemic like interruption, so everything just squeezed into like the lower half of the year, like the last quarter, and it's just going to be busy till Christmas, I guess. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we do have some news today
Yes.
here. Oh, I'm
PyChat.
correct for once. My hand is at the right place for once. So like
Here,
this is the link
here, here,
here. I'm
here.
massaging it. Yeah. So yeah, like this is our news, and let's see if I can share it. Yeah, because it's always tricky. If you have million tabs like me, you would have problem. Yeah. So right. So I think like I can't like stress enough that please submit your pajamas, and we have extended the CFP. Uh, you got 2 more weeks to do stuff, so it's one last chance. Really, please submit and really and know that there's a lot of conference going on, but this may be the last chance for you to speak at the at 2020. So please, and we really encourage first time speaker, and if you really like think about speaking but you don't know where to start, you can always contact us and we'll help you out. Okay.
Absolutely.
um
Also, you're not gonna have any other chance anytime soon to present wearing pajamas. So if you really fancy showing off your pajamas around, this is your chance. Please submit to pajamas. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be so much fun. And we wait for
yeah,
you there.
yeah. Right, so the next thing is that I don't have the thing up yet. I only have a tweet. Let me find it. Sorry, Twitter. And is PyData Global will have a humble data workshop.
Woo!
Yeah, so I think last time we have it with PyCon Africa, and it's quite successful. I think, like at least like everybody who joined enjoyed it, right? So and this time we would like it's our third time running this workshop. It will be on the 7th of November. This time we have like more time to prepare compared to last time, and it's with PyData Global. So we will have, so like what I'm saying now is just like what we are planning, right? So the application will open, I think, around the end of this week. So Lace, do you want to be a mentor this time?
Oh, that's a big commitment.
Yeah,
I will be around by Data Global. I will be hosting a casual sprint with
yeah,
Yetu. I would love to do maybe one day of mentoring if I could, but
yeah.
we can
This
talk
is
about
this is not on the conference day though. This is a week before the conference. So because it will be like, because the thing is, the plan is like we have two sections, right? So one
it.
section is like both sections will be a whole day workshop, but the first section is early to kind of, so I'm talking about like UK time here. It's like it will be 8 to 4. Okay, so
Mm.
it will be like for people who are early. So this is like for people who are maybe like if you're from India, from Africa, if you're a few hours ahead of us in Europe,
Oh.
that will be better for you. And then we'll have a second session that start from 4 to midnight. And that would be more for people in the America time, like
Yes.
North and South America. And so yeah, it will be a lot of work. And
That sounds amazing.
yeah, so Yeah, it will be great, and it's kind of like have a warm up to the event. So it will be the weekend before the event, and like weekend before Pi Day the Global. So yeah, and yeah, the application will open very very soon. So follow us on Twitter, and to get the first news. Like
Yes.
yeah,
And well, what I can tell everyone, I will most likely join you because I always join you, and mentor sprints are so much fun. But what I can tell everyone about this is I joined last time the mentor sprints, the Humble Data Mentor Sprint last time, but I joined on the other side. I joined as an attendee, and it was an amazing experience. I still have the notebooks to play with, and everyone was super super nice, and it was a great experience. So if you're starting your data journey, and you'd like some help, would like a kick on your butt to start off nicely, I would advise you to join as well. And well, we're probably both going to be there.
yeah. So get your chance to join us. That's all I want to say. I'll put the link here. And so PyCon AU is the recording is like, because it's very interesting because they have oh my god, it's very loud for me. This is this is, by the way, this is the video that Lace was talking about last week. This is like, well, I won't play it now, but it's like, we are taking, it's like those pre-flight announcement that you have to, the safety announcement and all this stuff, and it's just funny. um but they are very efficient. Their video is literally like up the day after, because they hired this company called Next Day Video that, like, okay, all the conference video will be up next day. So yeah, they really do. And like all the videos are there. I didn't participate much for PyCon AU because of the time difference.
Yeah.
But now I can catch up on everything. That's amazing.
Yes, and I
And then
saw some really cool talks as well.
and funny
They
thing is, I end up waking up at 4 a.m. to give my talk, which is funny.
had... Well, I was going to sleep at 4 a.m. last night, so it's dev time. That's it.
Yeah,
It's all
because I
right.
was debating whether I should stay up till 5, because my talk is at 5, but I wake up at 4 to prepare. So like, whether I should stay up till 5 or do I just wake up early? So like, yeah, it's just tricky. And because when I saw it, it says 1 p.m. I don't know why I thought that it's gonna be like early in the morning, but not as early as 5. I don't know. My mind just messed up, and I was like, okay, let's do it. But
It
yeah,
is,
it was great. And if you want to see me like without any makeup or anything, and just like give a talk while I'm half awake, you can find the video here. Yeah,
it's gonna be a really rare chance to see Chuck half awake because she's always
yeah,
awake, she's always jumpy, and she's always full of energy in all the conferences. And this one, you get the chance to see her half asleep. So try.
yeah. I was like, usually like my face in the public, I would, you may not notice, but I do put a little makeup on. But like, that was like the time that I just basically literally I woke up like that. So the chance they see me, no makeup, like nude face on, will be there. Like, yeah. Right. So what about this one?
Perfect. So, just contradicting a little bit our rules on Python and community, I decided to bring a link on inclusion. So those are it's just like a summary of some stats from the Engineers Without Borders in South Africa, and their stats on women in engineering. So it's a thread. So if you keep scrolling down there, you're going to see some interesting questions, as in what they're trying to answer with the research was, is it fair to say that the STEM field is still a male-dominated sector in South Africa? So then you have slides like those ones saying the ratio of men to women in engineering is 5-1. So we still have like a lot to conquer. And then globally, this time not for just for South Africa, the quit rate of women in STEM is 47% compared to 17% of men. So then if you think on the reasons that this because we're discussing this subject last week, and it will be interesting to bring the tweets up as well. So what the reasons, in your opinion, would be the reasons for pretty much half of the women that come into STEM to drop before they actually accomplish a degree. And then some other interesting things, like women that actually get to register to be an engineer. In 2016, the rate of that was around 11%. 96% of the South African engineer graduates are men. And then, like, it's, again, the discussion is how can we make sure that the IT world is balanced and it's equal, there is diversity, that there is inclusion, when there's only 4% of women graduating from, in this case, it's a very specific stats, but again, if you look globally, the difference is not that the difference is not that big, especially considering that the rate is 5-1. So yeah, I just thought it would be interesting to bring the subject up. What do you think, Chuck?
That's very interesting, because I have this conversation again and again, like with people, friends or people I met in the conference and all these things. I think there's a lot of different reasons. Like, it could be so deep down, like at the cultural level, that young girls that aspire to be kind and work with have people, work with animal, like to be a vet, to be a nurse, or to be a teacher, but not aspire to do things that were in tech, because tech give the impression of like, okay, this is not a thing that is for little girls. And so I think there's like there are reasons that's down in the roots, but like I don't know, like this is talking about South Africa, right? So I don't know how much influence they got from the Western world, because I know that in some Asian countries or in Middle East, like there are way more women working in tech. Like, for example, I know in some countries in Middle East, like tech is it's a women's job, because women found that working in tech is more secure, because they don't have to face people, so they feel that it's more safe, that because I think maybe in their culture, like going out alone is quite a dangerous thing, so they feel that if they can work behind a screen, it's more safe to them. So yeah, I don't know, like.
So you think that the reason for it is more social construct?
I think so. Another thing is like also what women are expected in the role they're expected in society, like, because like I think there's another thing that's talked about here, that like maybe they hasn't like put it as a picture here, is that like if the more level, like the more you go, right, the more, if you compare female developer with less than 5 year experience and 5 to 10 and then 10 to 10 or more, then you will see that the more the longer the experience you go, the less women would be, like if you compare the experience of the dev, because a lot of women, they may forced to stop because, or they're expecting to be the one who dropped the balls to provide the family, like to take care of the family, to be stay at home and sacrifice the career for the kids, and all this social expectation for women's role in a family. Like,
yes, in my opinion, especially when you talk about grad schools and post-grad schools, there would be more of the reason why there's so much, the disparity is so big. It's like, because on top of having to do everything else, so on top of having to do the college work and having to do the assignments and having to do like life assignments in general, they still have to take care of the house, and they have to cook, and they have to take care of the kids. And then I started recently as well joining a few workshops around for beginners, and it's easy to see the amount of girls, like those workshops are mainly for women, and it's easy to see the amount of women joining. Whilst they're trying to code, they're also taking care of their babies.
yeah,
and
and
imagine the challenge of that.
I can tell from the experience of my mom, because like, well, I first of all, for people who don't know me that well, like I am from Hong Kong, so it's kind of like a modernized, but still there's like Oriental, Chinese culture still ground rooted in the society there. And my mom, basically, she works, right, but like a lot of my schoolmates at that time, their mom could be a stay-at-home housewife, but my mom do work, but still on top of her work, she would be taking care of the family. She would cook most of the time. She would still do all the housework and stuff, like compared to my dad, who is like he could have a hobby, right? He could be like finish work and then have a hobby in the evening, but my mom would be like, the caretaker most of the time. So my
Yeah,
dad do help a little bit, like, because, well, we like being with dad because that is more fun, but because mom is like strict and you can't do this, you can't do that, that's dangerous for you, that's not good for you. But yeah, dad
but
will be just like whatever. But
but that's another social construct. That that is always more fun because dad has more time off, so he can just unwind a little bit more and be
yeah,
happier when he's gonna interact with the kids because he's gonna interact with the kids playing with them, not
he played
telling
video
them.
games. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like when mom has to work, sometimes she have to do like overtime or like working the weekend, and she's super busy. And like, and then he would be taking care of us. Like sometimes like we just like there's like so many videos online of like when mom is not at home and dad would be doing crazy stuff with the kids. So when I was a kid, the crazy stuff that we did is play video games. So basically, like, that's why I like computer. I think that's contributed to that a little bit. But yeah.
Cool. So that brings us then to our next session. I think we
Right.
talked there beforehand already.
Yeah. So how are we gonna do that? Because like I don't think we have questions coming in yet. But like if any of you are just coming in, please drop us questions. If not, then we will just ask each other questions. Um. Yeah. So how about like
uh,
each you ask me, I ask you, you ask me, like things like that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Okay. So I think this is like the typical questions, like when do you start Python and why?
Okay, so a little bit more detail on that, because we started talking about this a while ago, but then like, anyway. So a little bit more detail on that is I started my first contact with Python was when I first started engineering. So I ran around a little bit. I'm still an undergrad because I ran around a little bit. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did a industrial mechanics course when I was in high school, secondary school, depending on where you're watching us from. And I really liked the technical side of it. So I thought, well, I could do something related to that. But then I decided to open a company and I went straight into business. So I did the first year of management and business. I really didn't like it because I thought it was too flary. It was too much theory, and I wanted something a little bit more hands-on. So I went on a ranch and went to cooking school. So I went to cooking school for a year because I wanted to be a chef. Yes.
Do you regret it? Maybe if you become a chef, then
Yeah, so when I was in cooking school, I ended up finding out that the life of a chef is actually pure stress and that most chefs ended up becoming alcoholics. So I was like, oh, maybe not this one. No.
But we can still become alcoholic if you go to a lot of conference. I mean, like,
Yeah, developer is the second easiest path to become an alcoholic.
no, the developer will go to a lot of conference, especially in the UK. You would end up in Tiny Rebel at 2 a.m.
Actually, then I think DevRels is the second most likely profession to make you become an alcoholic. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, so I did that for a year, and then I got out, and I was like, no, this is not for me. What I actually want to do is engineering. So I started on my engineering course, and the college I joined my first year was general engineering. I really liked it. And one of the first modules that we had was Python. At that time, Python was like 2.7, I think. 2.7 was the version. No, sorry. Everyone around us was using 2.7, but my teacher was like, nope, we're using Python 3. I don't care what anyone says because Python 3 is the future. We're not starting coding on something that is going to be deprecated in a few years. It's like, okay.
That's smart. Yes.
Yeah. So I started, I still remember the first demo that he showed us was Fibonacci without using recursion, and then Fibonacci using recursion. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the universe. Yeah, I was like, this is amazing. So I didn't actually use Python that much, though. I was using Python on that year for that programming module. But then my calculus module, I wasn't aware of like all the power of Python with all the libraries and all. We're just doing simple like functional programming. So I was using Wolfram for Wolfram Alpha for calculus. And then I also did a little bit of MATLAB because everyone was saying that MATLAB was the best thing ever for visualizations. And then turns out that MATLAB actually kind of just scared me and made me a little bit angry. And the fact that I could only use the visualization, the plot tools of Wolfram on a browser as well was really frustrating. So by second year, I moved into, I mean, I did a few more things.
I should say, if you think Matplotlib is bad, wait till you try MATLAB, you know, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, like Seaborn has nothing on MATLAB, like seriously. Generating a heat map on MATLAB is a headache. Like it was a workshop for us, how to generate a heat map on MATLAB. It was like a week's work. Anyway, then I got a scholarship for a university in Ireland. I ended up moving to Ireland. In Ireland, the college that I was in, there was no Python at all. So I didn't get any contact with Python for that. Then I ended up getting out of engineering and starting IT. I'm now in my last year, so fourth year of IT. But for the first 3 years, I didn't do any. For the first 2 years and a half, I would say, I did all Java. And it was very, very frustrating because Java is very verbose. So if you want to, for example, get an input from a user, you need to import this whole huge package, and then it's like 4 lines of code, so you can actually get an input from the keyboard. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit difficult, but let's try to power through. Until I went to a PyCon Ireland, and getting there, that's where I met Chuck, and I saw actually your talk on chatbots. I had just like done a little bit of a workshop at IBM on chatbots. I was like, this is amazing. So I just started using again, and that was around a year ago. Yeah, not even.
You have stepped into the rabbit hole, and there's no way out now.
Yes. Yes, that's it. Now, what about you? How did you start with Python? Like, what's your start of the whole trajectory? When did you start coding?
Right. I start coding like way earlier. It depends on what you count as coding, right? Because I think the first time I write something, you know, type something down and it kind of make things work is HTML. I remember in secondary school, I was, you know, I was always like a oddball. Like I like science, I like, you know, engineering, but I was in a girls' school, so normally we won't get the chance to do things, you know. At that time, you know, computer is a new subject in school in Hong Kong. Okay, so and like it will be like very, you know, something very different. And luckily we have a chemistry teacher that I don't know how, like maybe he's like my father, that love computer, and then he kind of get, I don't know how, like later he started teaching computer. Maybe you can also qualify yourself to be a computer teacher at that time, even though you are mainly like study chemistry, I guess. And then he's super funny. He's a very nice guy, and he started this extracurricular kind of thing that is teaching us to do some extra fun computer project. One of them is like, you know, doing some front end stuff, right? HTML, CSS, Flash. At that time, there's still Flash, and I fall in love. I remember reading a book about ActionScript. I don't know how I get my hands on that book. Maybe my father got it like somewhere because he's also into the computer. So you know, kind of try to also, like at that time I also have internet, so basically what I would do is I would look at some other people's source code, right? So if I go to a website, I like it, I would open the, you know, on your browser you can view the source of the HTML, and I would read it. I was like, oh, how do you do that? You know, I kind of try to learn it. And also, you know, after we have like Flash, I try to make a game with my friend. We went into a competition, but it's just a big mess, right? It's like like kiddie stuff. When you think about that, that's a bit silly. And then I didn't do computer for a while because like I didn't go sit in the exam for, because we have public exam, right? After, at the end of your secondary school, I didn't sit for, or I do sit for the computer at that one, I think. And then when I go to choose the subject in university, I didn't choose anything related to IT stuff. I choose pure science. I study physics. But I remember that, 2 years before I really get admitted to the university, because the university do something like, oh, we have this summer course for some, secondary school student to come in, just join our course, that we give to our first year student, right? So it's one of the easier course, like, they can come in, study that, and see if they want to study, computer science when they graduated, because, well, they're fighting for students basically, because no student, no funding, right? So
Yeah.
so I did some courses in the computer science, faculty, the engineering faculty in my university. I do like the university. I do like the course, but I didn't choose the engineering faculty. I choose the science one.
Okay.
Yeah, for some reason. If I tell you, that would be too long. But that's the only computer science course that I did in university. We have to complete two engineering course during, to get the degree, but because I already did it 2 years before I got admitted, so I didn't do any afterwards. And then, so like basically my computer is out of my way for the rest of my life until I I moved to UK. I really don't like Hong Kong. Like, if you see what Hong Kong becomes now, you know why I left, because I have some I foresee that like this is going to happen. So I left and I moved to UK, and then I started to learn data science, but I did R at that time. So and then when I come back to programming, I did R. Um,
Okay.
but before that, when I do research, I do some programming when I was doing some research, because it's a computational research. So I have to simulate like what happened if the light, the laser setup is like this or something like that. So I did write something in my research, but
That's for your physics degree. Like that's your for your physics
yeah.
postgrad. Okay.
Yeah. So I did some like in research, so I skipped that part. But it's totally not related to, like, it's not Python. At that time nobody used Python. It was like nobody really, like, Hong Kong is, it's a bit like remote, and also, it's not popular at that time. MATLAB, I use that. C, I use that, because I remember SSH into the terminal there, like we have a cluster of computer, send your job there to calculate. And because that's very funny. It's very similar to the neural network and stuff like that. Because I calculate linear algebra, right? So basically, if you can break it, because linear algebra, the good thing is that you can break it up. So like we have a cluster. So if you do like kind of, if you break it up and use the cluster to calculate it, it's actually faster. Right? At that time, we was like, oh my god, our computer is so great and all this stuff. But now it's nothing. You can spin up anything on on EC2 or something. Is much better than what I had. So yeah, like and then I try to learn computer data science. I did and then till my first job that I work as a data analyst, and then later I become a data scientist. But because the whole team used Python, and then I started to learn Python. At the beginning, it was hard. It was really hard, and I was like, okay, this is so different from R, and like learn all this syntax, or why I do pandas this way, why I can't write a for loop like I did when I was doing research in C. But and then I go to some like more events, some conference, and then start realizing that the community is so lovely, and then there are so many people, in my journey helped me so much, and I just can't name everybody because so many of them, like some of them, including Mark Glacier, like he bring me into open source contribution. There are like all my co-organizers in the AI club, Chin and Sandrine, like they are super nice and become my friend, and I start from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's the story of I came for the tool, I stayed for the community. It was the same with me.
Yeah.
Cool. Your turn now.
Oh, my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
So you said that you have tried different things until you get there. Do you have ever like slightly thought of doing tech when you was a kid? Is there any sign?
I always loved computers. You see, so like I always loved electronics in general. That's why I did mechanics when I could. I went into the telecommunications. That would be more like a binary and like electronics, but I didn't get in. So I started with mechanics. Yeah. So I used to be that kid that used to walk around the house with a screwdriver, taking all the screws out of things.
That's like me. I break
Yeah.
every appliance in the house. Oh
And
my
then
god.
putting back together again. Yes. And then my mom would be crazy because she's going to go and use the blender and the blender is like falling apart. It's
Yeah.
like, why is the blender falling apart? I was like, well, I fixed it. I was
If next door our parents would got mad because we would be the trouble gang of breaking appliances.
Yeah. So then my mom, I used to like cry because I wanted to play with her computer in work. And I used to be like, I just want to go to your work because I want to play with your computer. Just leave me in front of the computer and go away. So she's like, okay, I give you a computer. So she like worked super hard to get me this. I don't know if anyone remembers like that big blue Apple. It was my first computer.
Oh, fancy! I didn't got that. Like my dad got this. Like he made his own computer. Open. Like all this. And then I watch him doing that so much that sometimes I dream of like become tiny and live inside a computer because it looks very complex. It's like a maze. You know. Yeah.
That was awesome. I've never had that dream, no. But yeah, the computer was so much fun. I used to really love it. But like I would play with everything. I would play like she had the Motorola A45, I think one of the first cell phones that was around as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we had one of
Motorola.
those.
Yeah.
We had one of those. And I
Oh my
remember
god.
once, like, I spent so much money just like learning how to use it. And it's like, this really calls people. Like, you mean that it calls people, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was always like that, but I never actually knew what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So much so that like I started the career path, the undergrads are just all over the place. It's everything. It's everything everywhere now.
But I think that's good. Like for me, I just like spent so many years studying physics, and then I realized that actually I thought I want to be a professor. That's what I want to be when I was a kid, and then I was like, no, actually I don't like that. Actually, I don't like that. I don't like being a old professor.
When did you realize that? When was the click? When did you realize that? When was the click for you?
When I was studying for my master degree, when I have to do research, and then like realize that you have to put a lot of I just feel like I miss a lot of things in life because you have to be really focusing on studying one thing, and I don't think that my passion is great enough for me to sacrifice everything in life. I don't have the devotion like most of the successful professors in my school. So just decided that no, that's not me. Right. So
Oh.
I think it's your turn.
Yes. So you told me about your background already, but then have kind of the same question for you. So have you ever thought in your life that you're going to become a DevRel?
Oh, DevRel. I think it's only started when I go to a lot of conference. I fall in love with it. I fall in love with giving talks. Um, I always kind of like. I always kind of like I have to express myself. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm from an Asian family. Usually the kids doesn't have a say. No one will listen to you. I think I'm kind of balancing it, right? I want to like I have thoughts and I want to tell people. So some people want to express it through they may become a writer. They may some people become a artist. I'm not that talented in any of those things. So so I think like the only thing that I'm good at is bullshitting, right? I don't know whether I can say that word. Oh my god, beep. So yeah, like so yeah. I love giving talks. I love to if you ask me a topic that like I really want to I have something to say. I would just go on forever. So yeah, I love that. And then I love organizing things. I love connecting people, and because I like going to events and have fun. And I already like do that in university. Actually, like I participate in the in organizing activities for students. All this stuff. So I kind of like doing that because for me, like it's like a meeting friends. Like a lot of people that I met in, conference and meetup end up being my friend. So I love to continue that. So I love to, organize stuff. I don't want it to stop, and then, I start to have people that I know, my friends that I met from the conference. They'll be like, oh, you're working, this is your job? I mean, like giving talks and going to conferences, this is your job? How can I get a job like that? So yeah, so that's how I started.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely the like biggest attraction to being a dev pro. Absolutely, because you sold that career to me. You're like, I think you would actually be a good dev pro. I was like, what is that? And you're like, that's what I do. I was like, oh yes, that's my dream job.
Yeah, I won't ask you that question because I know, because I'm part of it. Yeah.
Okay. Is it it's your turn now?
Yeah, my turn, and I asked you something else. So I know that you're still studying your last year. So how can you juggle school with work? You must be super busy, right? And also your community thing,
Yeah, so the three jobs I have, there is work, there is my love at the moment that is called Kedro. It's this awesome open source, building a community for that open source. Then there is college, and I'm going into my final year, and it's actually a bit scary because I have no idea how it will go. And then there is also, I mean, it's gonna go fine. I know it's gonna go fine. It's all right. And then there is the community work. I'm involved with a few different communities. I mean, I'm involved with the Python community, but I have like my feet are everywhere.
Yeah, I try to stop get you involved in too many things now. I feel guilty about doing that.
No, it's not your fault. It's because I love contributing. Like it's the passion of my life is contribution. It's the thing that actually drives me and actually makes me happy is to be able to interact with people and know that by the end of that interaction I will have learned something and the other person will also have something to take with them, and use it or not, but that's how experiences are made. That's how experiences are created. So that's the thing that actually drives me. So that's the reason why I try and do so much. How do I manage? So through COVID, I actually managed much better, but I kind of did like a 3 months period where I would go to bed at 10 p.m. You were there for that, I remember. So I would go to bed at 10 p.m. I would wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, and then I would like do exercises, then food, and then I would sit down and work for around like 12 or 16 hours a day with a list of things that I had to do. That was how I managed last semester. I gotta confess that throughout summer, my schedules have not been that proactive. I haven't felt I'm not feeling as productive as I could be, and it's a bit concerning as well because I don't feel like I'm managing it. I feel sometimes like I'm just pushing things, and that's the problem with saying yes to too many things, and being too much, wanting to be to do too many things at the same time. So I don't have a solution for that. Most of the time I just do it. Like I went to bed at 4:30 in the morning last night.
Yeah.
So there isn't a system for now. I'm just kind of learning still how to do it, but I will definitely let you know when I know how I
Yeah.
manage.
I have the same problem. Like my thing is like to look for support. Like for things that is, related about my work, I always can have my colleagues to they are very supportive in lots of things. Sometimes I give a talk and it's like, oh, I need to get this material ready and I need your help, and I can just be frank with them and they will help me. So yeah, having good colleagues would really help, and also having friends. I have you. You always help me out with things, and also Boyan also helped me to fix the test for the last weekend. Really, give you a shout out.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Boya
much.
is a legend. I have been
Yeah.
talking to him about business and stuff and the business setup and stuff. And if you still have that link, that Calendify link, or you have Discord, call that man. He is awesome and he helps everyone. It's like
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Borja. We love you.
Yeah, if I can give you an award, I will give you an award. Yeah. So, oh, I have to send him swag for the terminus because he contributed. Yeah, I would ask my colleague to send him swag. Yeah.
I got my
So,
socks, by the way. Oh, shout out to Luke as well, because I got my socks and now I'm full of Terminus DB swag. I have the coffee cup that is made of bamboo. It's recycling. It's recyclable. It's compostable. I have the shirt and I also have the socks. It's perfect for pajamas.
yeah. So you're all set. Right. So whose turn is that? I forgot.
I think it's me again. I
Okay.
feel like I'm doing all the talk though. So we're talking about being busy and not knowing necessarily how to manage things. So and there's also that thing that everyone, like, it's quite hard to delimitate what actually a DevRel job is. So for you, Chuck, what is that? How do you see DevReling for Terminus DB? And how does that translate on your daily tasks? Like, what do you do on a daily basis?
It's very difficult to say because we are a small team compared, we are not Microsoft, we are not Google, we don't have a dedicated team. Basically, like, DevRel team is me, but I got a lot of support from my colleague. So I would say that, like, a lot of the work that I want to do, basically my colleague would do it. That I consider that stuff for and really helping me out. Luke did a lot of things. Like, basically, he is supposed to be my boss, but he do a lot of things that I think, like, oh yeah, I really want someone to do that for me. But, like, he already did. That's amazing. He's really good at selling, things and promoting things, and all the right people to talk to, the forums and stuff to post things. He say hi to everybody on Discord. So if you join a Terminus TV Discord, you will be greeted by Luke. He is amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I got a lot of support from colleagues that, oh, we have to write documentation. So when I suggested it, everybody is just like full on to do that. And with talks, and like now they're like more and more, our CTO will also give talks as well, not just like me, and so other developers will also, we even before, like when we had meetup, at the venue. So like they fly to London, we have a London meetup, everyone, like half of the team fly to London and join that, and always ask questions. Everybody also have a question, ask, like, answer questions, because I I can only, because like sometimes people ask about things that is very specific and about the back end, which I don't know much, to be honest. So it's because we don't have a dedicated team of, like, we have different dev routes to look after different things. So sometimes, like, my colleague, they all have to also support me on that. They have to answer questions. Yeah, so it's difficult to say in our company, like, since we don't have a dedicated team. But at the same time, I also, like, job as a Python developers, because I have to look after the Python client, maintain it. So it's very difficult, like, because I know that there are other, like, fellow DevRel person. They also have to maintain the API or the SDK. So yeah, I think there's no black and white in terms of DevRel. It really depends. Like, it differs from company to company, to be honest. But I think a company having a DevRel role, a DevRel team would be, I think, it's a company that cares. They care about the user. They care about their the developer, which are the users. If it's an open source project, it could be their contributor. So yeah, so I think the only difference of, like, having a DevRel person, DevRel team or not is more than, it's more difference than, what do they do. So
Okay. So that would be then the biggest difference between doing DevRel for a startup and doing DevRel for a big company. Although I'm doing DevRel for a big company and I'm the only DevRel for the company.
because you are in a separate team, right? So you're back, you kind of, your team is backed by a company. So it's
Yes,
yeah,
because
it's also
it's
like a
open source enterprise. Yeah, it's not community open source, it's enterprise open source.
yeah.
So the definition is a little bit different. But what makes DevReling for it even more complex I guess.
Yeah. So what's your role in Kedro? So that's my next question.
So I feel right now that since, well, it's my first job as a DevRel, and I'm the first DevRel for the company as well. So I feel sometimes like my role is more developer marketing than actually developer advocacy. Because what we're trying to do at the moment is just build a community around the open source, the Kedro. And because Kedro is the first open source library from Quantum Black and also from McKinsey. And my wish is that becomes a thing, and then we start open sourcing internal tools more and more. But again, it's a big wish. Because again, I'm totally new and I'm finding out, I'm learning the job on the job, so it makes it even more challenging. And also my Python, like Kedro is amazing for everyone that is a great Python programmer. It's easy to deal with if you're a great Python programmer. I'm not a great Python developer. I'm not even a Python developer. Like, I do hacks eventually.
I think a lot of people start to like that, you know. I think we talked to Martin like a few weeks ago, and he's like, "Oh yeah, at the beginning I start like playing with this Raspberry Pi, and then he sell his Python program like a year after." So
Yes. Yeah, but I've been in the job for a year already. I mean, not the job, but like I've been dealing with Python for a year already. And I don't think I could sell anything so far. Although I've read somewhere as well that it's a female thing to sell herself short. So usually you see a male in a interview or in whichever place that he needs to sell himself, he's going to sell himself much better than he actually thinks he is. And females don't usually do that. So maybe that's one of the things that I need to watch for. But well, it's so to answer your question a little bit more directly, what I actually do is I liaise between marketing and engineering, and trying to build a community around Kedro. So it's mostly about tweets and how can we get, what is the problem that users are usually having at the moment, what's the problem with adoption, what's the problem with, would Kedro suit your use case, what is it that you're doing with. So it's basically talking to users every day, everywhere, and getting messages everywhere. And yeah, but I love it. It's the part of the job that I actually really enjoy, is talking to users and understanding what their needs are and how we can make their developing experience better.
yeah. So whose turn is that? I lost track.
I think it's you.
It's me. Okay. So no, I just asked you what's your role in Kedro.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's your turn.
true.
Okay.
True. So I have one for you. I have no data for this, but you might know because you've been a DevRel for longer. How would you evaluate the DevRel world in terms of diversity and inclusion? Do you think it's more inclusive than the rest of the IT world? Do you think we're doing a good job? Do you think it could be more? I haven't been in any DevRel conferences in person yet. I'm dying to actually talk to my colleagues.
I think you're saying like the in the DevRel role is it more diverse, right? Or
yeah.
So well, I would say that definitely is more diverse in the sense that I have seen, because I've been to DevRelCon in London, luckily last year before this craziness happened, and I would see that like the thing that I see is because DevRel, like I said, is a broad spectrum. It comes in different color and sizes, I would say. So there are DevRels that like they would be, oh, I have no technical background. I just come from a teaching background. I come from a marketing background or things like that.
Customer service.
Yeah, anything. We also have like, oh, I've been a developer for 10 years, really sick of it, and now I'm a DevRel. Okay, so there are like different like different types of DevRel. Even like they would be like what they're doing could be different. They could be a community manager who's like managing events and communities. It could be a developer advocate who need to answer questions, be more technical and give talks and teach people how to use the stuff, right? so there are lots of different way of doing DevRel, different aspect of DevRel. So it's more diverse in that way. It's because like the definition of the job is so broad, then you attract people with different backgrounds. So you can see that it's by the look of it, you see, oh, it's more diverse. Also, I think because the tech communities try to be more advanced in being more like, inclusive, that people are careful about, what pronoun you use. We stop making assumption of people's, identity. We try to be, make everybody feel comfortable, they can be themselves and all these things. So DevRel community also carry that elements. And also I think DevRel is the front end of developers, right? We are those who are kind of like influencers, in like, in beauty or in fashion, like those Instagram people that, influencers. So we have like influencers in the developers world. So we always try to be more upfront of the trend. Like, for example, if there are if there are issues that we think that the dev community need to change. For example, I think earlier, like, there was some like discussion about, or whether you should use the term master, blacklist, all these things that, well, for us is something that we really care about, and we would discuss about it, right? And so for those inclusive and diversity thing, I think DevRel by nature is more sensitive to those, and that's why the community is more, open to adopting these new things. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's very thorough. Thank you very much. Now it's your turn, and then I think we should go
Yeah,
on.
I think what I think is like, I really like this. Do you want to carry on until we end the program so we
Yeah,
can
sure.
skip
I have
forward?
I have a cool library that I would like to share, but we can save it for
Oh,
next week. It's all
yeah,
right.
we can say for next week. I mean, like, it's difficult to think of something every week. I'm running out of things now.
Oh, really?
Um,
I have a pile for you. Don't worry. Just send me a message.
yeah. So, okay, like, I want to like ask you back. Like, what do you think is a good DevRel person? Like, what character does someone need to be? Like, what, how, like, what qualify you as a good DevRel person
Okay.
in your
Uh,
opinion?
okay. So when I was studying, I read this blog post that is supposed to be like, it's kind of like the Zen of Python for DevRels. I actually have to find that. Um, and he was basically talking about the characteristics of a good DevRel. That in general, I mean, people are different, but in general, I believe that we cannot be ashamed to make mistakes. We cannot be ashamed to learn in public, because people are going to look at us. People love seeing failures everywhere. It's true. We've discussed this. People love seeing
They can
failure.
relate because everybody must have make some stupid mistake in their life before.
Yeah.
So, like, we are not God. Like, we are
Yeah.
normal people as well. We make mistakes.
Yes. I think so. Yes. So the ability to learn in public, let's baptize it as lack of shame to learn in public. Yeah. The empathy for people, like we need to be in love with the user. We need to be in love with people in general, like not necessarily cop on with every single thing that shows up in our LinkedIn inbox. But we need to we need to be passionate about the users, because by the end of the day, that's who we're serving. We also need to have a really good mental strain, because DevRel is a career that is very hour heavy. So it's like you put in a lot of hours, and by the end of the day, you're like, I don't actually know what I did today. Or you send like 25 different messages in 10 different channels, and you're like, okay, now I kind of wait. But it's pushing through. It's pushing through. So it needs a lot of courage. It needs a lot of grit. We need to be really good communicators as well, and we cannot be ashamed. We cannot be ashamed to make mistakes. We cannot be ashamed to be wrong. We cannot be ashamed to apologize. We cannot be ashamed of not knowing things. Um, we it's just courage. It's a profession of courage. That's it.
Yeah. I think that applies a lot to speaking in public as well. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people are very like self-aware that oh, I need to be perfect. No, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. You just need to be relatable. So
You see, that's my problem now. Since we're talking about this, that's exactly what I'm facing right now. I don't have any issues with speaking in public, but as soon as it is about talking about something and knowing that people is going to look at what you're saying to apply to what they're doing, then it's when the imposter syndrome kicks in. Because there is that we always want to do the best we can, always. And sometimes the best we can, it's not necessarily what it's good for the community. What it's good for the community is having that bit of failure and not being afraid of showing that.
I feel like that's going weird because like it's getting dark outside, and now the light balance is so weird. Like I'm in a basement or something. But I'm not. Okay, so your turn before we end.
Uh,
This is the last questions. I think it's the last
I
question.
think so. Yeah.
Okay, pick your choice.
So let's see. Yeah, this is a good one. So most of your DevRel work is also based on building a community around Terminus DB, right? Do you think it's possible to draw a clean line between all the volunteering work that you do and the paid work that you do for Terminus DB? Because I know you're also passionate about contribution and open source. And so, yeah, how would you qualify that? Is there a line?
It's impossible. Luckily, I'm not paid by the hour. Otherwise, I don't know how to put in my hours because it's weird that sometimes, the thing that I do in the weekend is related to work. The things that I am doing, in the evening is related to work. Sometimes during my work hour, I'm doing something for the community. So it's difficult. But luckily for me, that again, my company is very supportive. Like I go to conferences, I give a talk. I don't always talk about Terminus DB all the time, even though I always give them a shout out, because when I introduce myself, I'll be like, I work for Terminus DB. Like you can't dodge that, right? But but I like I sometimes like I want to oh, I have something about Python that I want to tell people, I want to teach people, and
Yeah.
my company is supportive for us to do that. Like before we because like our database is written in Prolog. Before we would be like we have our one of my ex-colleague, like she is very senior Prolog developer. She also give talks sometimes. We actually like want to encourage her to give more talk about Prolog as well. So yeah, so I think that's why I love my company so much. I love my my colleagues, because they're super supportive for me to do this stuff, right? So as long as I am the time that I'm contributing to build the Python community is also actually introducing Terminus DB to the to get more like, because we want to know what's going on in the Python community, right? Because we want to build this Python clients for the Python community. So I think it's difficult to separate, and I think I'm so lucky that I get the support to also do things for the Python community, and that's why I love my job, because I really want to do more stuff for the Python community, and having a company that support me to do that, that they see the benefit of that bringing into my actual work for them, that is priceless. It's priceless. I didn't have that all the time. In my previous jobs, I always like, the company is like, oh, you have to, be away for a few days to give a conference at EuroPython,
Yeah.
but now it's like, oh yes, EuroPython. Okay, let's think about whether we should sponsor. So yeah, it's totally
It's
different,
so
and that's why
cool.
I love doing what I'm doing right now. Yeah.
That is so cool. Well, shout out to everyone from Terminus DB as well, because I know some of you guys and some of your people, and you're quite cool. I really love it. It's the coolest database for sure. You guys are super cool.
Yeah.
And Luke is like the cherry on top of the the cherry on top of everything.
yeah. They're very good people, and yeah, it's not like because they are I work for them. It's just like from the bottom of my heart that this is so priceless.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. So I guess that ends our hour. That would be meet pie for us today.
I don't know whether people enjoy that. I don't know. Let me know. It's something different, and hopefully we won't do this again. We'll have a guest. Yeah, we don't always have a guest. So
Well, if you want to be a guest, if you were watching us right now and you would like to join us to chat about Python or community or whatever it is, we would love to have you here. So yeah, shout out to everyone from the community that enjoys Meet Pie and you'd like to just pop in for a quick hello. We would love to host you. So just send us a message, Twitter, Twitch, anywhere. Just we're everywhere. So just send us a message.
yeah, and yeah, we will see you next week, and we will see what's going on next week. To be honest, I have no idea, like usual. So yeah,
Yes. Yes. Now let's join Python Islands meetup.
yeah.
Bye
Bye.
bye.